This video is going to show you how to set up and actually calculate some regressions. We're going to only focus in on uh, testing relationships to see if it's a linear relationship, a quadratic relationship, or an exponential relationship. So on your calculator, the first thing you want to do is find where your stat button is. That is right here on your calculator. Okay, so the stat button is the key to this, and within that menu system, you're going to look at edit and calculate. But before we do that, we want to make sure that your correlation coefficient is turned on, and the way we're going to do that is to hit second zero. You see that up here, okay? If I'm going too fast, just feel free to pause it, find it on your calculator. But here's second and zero. Then you're going to hit this, what's called the reciprocal button. It's not going to do a reciprocal for you. What it's going to do is, actually, if you hit this, it's going to take you down to the D's in this catalog here. The catalog has every single command your calculator is capable of doing. And you want to go down until you find diagnostic on. So hit the down arrow until you find diagnostic on. Oh, there it is, I passed it by. So once you get there, hit enter once to select it, enter again to run it. Now that it says done, your correlation coefficient is on. So when you calculate these regressions, if you find that your correlation coefficient squared is exactly 1, it means the information you entered into the lists is a perfect fit. The closer it is to 1, the better the fit. So sometimes it's perfect, sometimes you just need to pick the one that fits best. Okay, more on that later. So for now, let's use our stat button. So if you click on your stat button, you have your choices of edit, and that's right here, okay? Or eventually, once we get our lists plugged in, we want to go to our calculate menu, which is right here, okay? Just a little side note, anytime you want to quit out of a menu system, you're going to use these two buttons right here. Notice right above mode it says quit, so if you hit second mode, it's just going to take you out, okay? So let's get back into the stat menu, and let's hit enter right here to choose edit. And we want to use list 1 and list 2 in all of these. If you get a little more proficient with this process, you can use, there's other lists here, you can even create your own lists. But let's keep it basic here and just use list 1 and list 2. Notice I have here to clear a list, go to the list name and hit clear enter. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go into this list name, I'm going to hit clear enter, and I'm going to go over to my other list name and hit clear enter. All right, let's enter this data. So list 1 is going to represent your X values. List 2 will represent your Y values, input, output. Okay, so let's just plug these in. Again, if I'm going too fast, just pause it. All I'm doing is hitting these numbers and then hitting enter to get them in. So we're just going to enter 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in the Y values, we're going to enter 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. So maybe as you look at this right now, you can tell that this is exponential growth here, but if not, that's fine too. All right, we're going to let our calculators tell us this. So notice we have our XY pairings, input, outputs, and they match up. You need about, I would say, 4, at least 4 to play it safe. Sometimes you can use fewer, but I'm not going to go into detail about that right now. So let's hit stat and go over to calculate. And notice, and I have it listed here, option 4 is your linear regression. Okay? Option 5 is your quadratic regression. And then if you go down to option 10, it says a 0, but option 10 is your exponential regression. So let's choose option 4. Just hit enter to select it. And right now it's going to, if we hit enter again, and by the way, default in your lists are list 1 and list 2. So you don't have to type the list names in here. If you're using something other than list 1 and list 2, you actually have to type those in. So we're just going to hit enter, and notice that the r squared value, here's your correlation coefficient, here's the square of that, and if the closer it is to 1, the more perfectly the fit. So you're like, that's pretty close to 1. That's a pretty good fit. All right, let's check quadratic. So you go stat, calculate, quadratic. Enter to select it, enter to run it, and look at our correlation coefficient. Squared is 0.99. That's really, really good. Let's just check the exponential. Remember, I said that the data we typed in, this is an exponential relationship here. So when we calculate r squared, it should be perfectly 1. So let's see what that is. Stat, calculate. Let's go down to exponential regression. And when we calculate that, notice that r squared is perfectly 1, and it even tells us what the equation is. Y equals 1 times 2 to the x power. Okay, so that's how you calculate those regressions to figure out which of those relationships, linear, quadratic, exponential, is going to best fit your information.